Hey, multimedia students, it's Mr. Roper here, and I'm going to do a demo with you today on the first stage of our three-stage mobile game design project. In the first part of this project, what we're going to be doing is taking the sketches that you came up with this week and bringing them into your favorite software, either Photopea, Photoshop, Illustrator, or Gravit, to create a logo or icon for your mobile game that's going to appear on people's phones. So as you can see from my screen, I'm inside Photopea for this, and I'm going to be creating a document this time that is made for mobile. We're going to actually make our canvas size the same size as your phone screen so that you can fit the graphics perfectly to that footprint, okay? So right here, I'm going to click on mobile, and you can see all the different models of phone in there. You can choose one that's closest to what you have. I think I'm going to go with the Samsung at 1080 by 1920. And I'm going to have this go long ways because I want to do it like a landscape format. So I'm going to press this little button here to landscape it out. Okay, I'll hit create, and that's going to create my canvas. Now, the other thing that I have here is the sketch that I made for my original design, and I have it on my desktop. Let me go pull this out really quick, and mobile sketch game. And I'm going to bring this in. And I don't really need all of it right now. I'm just basing my design off of this sketch that I did where I'm going to have the roper kind of large up here and then the words photo hunt down below. Okay, so this is just there for me to use as reference. I can drag it up, drop it into my new program window, and I'll just back up here a little bit. Looks pretty good. Edit, free transform. If it's coming out too big, you can always shrink it down a little bit to fit it on your screen. So I'm just going to pop this in right here and hit OK. And then I'll go ahead and make this layer a little bit less transparent. I'm going to push it down just so it's really faint in the background and see if I can just lock it up here. I'll lock that one, and I'm going to do my artwork on the next layer up. Okay, so first thing I want to do is find a nice font for this. I want something kind of bold for the roper part. So I'm going to take the text tool and I'm just going to click once to start typing. It's going to load up my fonts, and I'll go ahead and put in all caps ropers like that. That's really, really small right now, so I'm going to go ahead and knock its size up to about 300. It's nice and big, and I'm going to pick a different font here. I want something big and bold, so there's tons of fonts preloaded in here. For my demo, it doesn't really matter. Let me just see if I can grab something that's kind of bold, and there we go. How about fork? That looks all right. All right, I'm all right with that. It doesn't have the apostrophe. Some fonts don't, but I think what I can do is just use a comma, and then where are my options here? I can go to my character options, and let's shift this guy up about 30 points. Ooh, he's gonna have to go way more than that. About 300 points. Too much. 200. 180. All right, that's gonna work. Okay, so I've got the first part of my writing here, and I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. I'll go edit, free transform. I'm gonna hold down shift and enlarge it up. So I got a nice big, bold, recognizable name at the top. And even though it's just in black right now, what I'm about to show you is how we can add layers of color, outlines, glows, shadows, all the things that's going to make this really stand out. So it's not just plain text. Okay. So to do that, what we're going to do is right click our text layer and choose blending options. And this window opens up with a whole bunch of things that we can do to make our text look even more eye-catching. So things like bevel and emboss, adding a stroke, adding a glow, adding a drop shadow. Watch how I build up my text and then experiment with your own here. So the first thing I'm going to add is what's called a gradient overlay. And a gradient overlay is basically when you have one color fading from one to another over the top of your text. So I'm going to click on the word gradient overlay, and its default is going to be black to white. So why don't I select this? Let's pick some better colors. I'm going to choose a nice, bright, Slow High Tigers gold for the top. And for the darker color, I'm going to choose a darker, redder orange. So I get this kind of like fiery yellow to orange gradient. I'll hit OK. And there's my gradient overlay. It's just added it on top of the black writing. Okay. Now let's build it up even more. Let me zoom in a little bit. And what I want to do is add a stroke. So I'm going to click stroke. And I want this stroke to be white. So I'll choose white to start with. And I can change its size right here. So I'm going to thicken it up a little bit. Let's give it a stroke of about 10 pixels. Okay. And then I think what I want to do is add another one behind this. So I'm going to go ahead and click plus to add a second stroke to this. I'm going to go down to the bottom one, and I'm going to change this from white to black. And I'm going to make its size even bigger so that it shows up behind the stroke that I already did. So basically I have my gradient, then a white outline, then a black outline behind that. Okay, so right away I get a really eye-catching, pretty interesting effect here. I'm also going to give it a drop shadow, so I'll click on drop shadow. And on this one, you can change its distance by pushing on this slider here. You can change its direction by turning the angle. So maybe I want this shadow to be dropping straight down. And you can change its spread and its size using these sliders here. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to hit OK. Oh, before I hit OK, actually, I want to show you, if you really like this setup and you want to save it to use on another piece of text, maybe later on in your design, you can click Define New Style. And you'll notice that now it's in a little library. So if I come back and use this on another piece of text, which I'm going to show you in a minute, I can apply this exact same style to it. Okay, so that's great. I'm going to hit OK. And boom, there's my text. It's still editable, which is great. I can even like push some of the spacing out. Ooh, that's too much. Let's take that down a little bit. Let's give it a maybe 25% spacing, so the letters are a little bit farther apart. And boom. Okay, first part of my logo. Now let's do the second part for Photo Hunt. So I'm going to take my text tool. I'm going to click on the page and we'll write in the words Photo Hunt. I'm going to pick a different font for this one. So I'll come over here. I want something that's not quite so tall this time. So let's see if I can find another kind of bold font, but not quite as tall. Maybe Great Lakes will work for me here. All right, that's pretty big. So I'm going to drop its size down to like 200. Awesome. Okay. So let's put this here. And I'm going to, again, create some blending options using the one that I already created. So I'll right-click the Photo Hunt layer. Let's go to Blending Options. And I'm going to go to my little library over here and put the exact same effect on it. So I'll click that. Boom. Automatically adds the gradient and the strokes that I did before. But I want to fiddle with them a little bit. I don't want these to look exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is we'll come into the gradient and I'm going to change it from yellow to orange. Let's make this part in blues. I'm going to do a nice kind of aqua blue at the top, and then the darker color, I'm going to pick a darker blue at the bottom. I like how this contrasts that blue with the yellow. Pretty happy with that. We'll hit OK. OK. Let's go to the second stroke. I feel like it's a little bit too thick there, so I'm going to turn it down a bit. And, you know, I've got lots of other options I could try here. Maybe we put a bevel and emboss on it. You see how that makes it a little bit three-dimensional? So I turn this up, those letters will stand out even more. That looks pretty cool, actually. I might leave that in there. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and add this blue effect to my library. So now I've got two in there, and I'll hit OK. And all right, the two main pieces of my logo are ready to go. So at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and delete my sketch layer. I'm done with it. So I'll delete that out. And the last thing I want to do, this text looks great, but it's very straight. And what I want to do is add some shape to it. So what I'm going to come up and go to the Ropers layer, highlight the text, and you'll notice as soon as I highlight it, I get this option up here that says warp. And warps are these built-in effects that you can do to your text. You can bend it, you can make it look like a shield, you can make it look like a flag, you can have it rise up at an angle or fisheye. So I'm going to choose arc, and as soon as I do that, boom, it bends it to this big curved arc. It's at 50% right now, which is a little high. I usually use about 20 to 30% on my arcs. So I'm going to turn this down. Let's put it at 20%, just kind of a real gentle arc there. And I already like that so much better because now this can sit, okay. This can sit right above the word photo hunt. And I can actually like having the word photo hunt cover it up a little bit. So it's like in front of it. That together looks pretty rad. Okay. So as you're working here, you can keep adding pieces. You could add shapes to this. You could add other designs if you want. I actually ended up with a totally different logo. I was playing around with this the other night in my Photoshop, and I'll open that up so I can give you a shot. I added some cartoon versions of myself, a little cartoon camera to finish up my logo along with the text effects. So if I open that one, let's see what we got here. Open recent. You can see that my final one looks like this. Okay, slightly different font, but I use the same yellow to orange. I picked a more adventurous font for the photo hunt part. This camera I basically made using shapes in Gravit. So you can see it's a rectangle with a bunch of circles on top of each other in different colors. I created, using the rectangle tool, this little Polaroid photo, and I put my cartoon person in there as well. And the whole thing works really well as a logo. I also put it inside of a square because, you know, the app that appears on your phone is going to be that little square icon. So this is ready to go. I can save this as a PSD if I know I want to keep working on it, or I can go File, Save As, and save it as either a JPEG or a PNG to turn in for the first part of my project. Okay, so that completes the first stage of our three-stage mobile game design project. We're going to continue on taking your sketches and creating each piece. So now that you know how to do this, I hope you guys will take some time to make your own mobile game logo and upload it for our discussion at our next class meeting. If you have any questions, hit me up on the Google Hangout. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, guys.